The U.S. economy is in deep trouble. Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. Public panic is mounting, and now investors on Wall Street, frustrated with the Trump administration, have begun a market sell-off, triggering this.
The stock market closed out the week with the worst day of the year so far. The Dow losing 748 points. The Nasdaq and S&P also were off.
The major averages are not only lower on the day, they're lower on the week. And the Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq are now also lower for the month of February so far.
The latest hit to the U.S. economy in wake of Trump tariff threats and labor shortages involves public confidence, or the lack of it. Consumer sentiment, according to experts, drives about 70% of all U.S. economic activity. And a new report shows that consumer confidence under Trump has plummeted.
A study this week from the University of Michigan finds consumer confidence is down nearly 10% from last month, the lowest it's been in more than a year.
Is there a person in this country that isn't concerned that prices are not going to keep going up?
In his first month in office, Trump has presided over rising prices for gasoline and basic food necessities, including eggs. It's a stark contrast with the drops that Trump had pledged during his presidential campaign.
I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
But things have not gone as promised. The latest consumer price index showing inflation rising to 3%, up a tick from January and a whole point higher than the Federal Reserve's goal of 2%.
Some prices are rising because of basic supply and demand. The Trump migrant worker deportations have depleted the labor force in the food and construction industries, so there are not enough workers to keep up with market demand, causing scarcity and causing higher prices. In dozens of industries, services are taking longer and productivity is dropping because of the Trump federal workforce firings. Project 2025 called for 50,000 federal workers to be fired, but as the New York Times reports, Trump officials escalate layoffs, targeting most of 200,000 workers on probation. It is prompting leading economists, including Jesse Rothstein, to write, "It seems almost unavoidable at this point that we are headed for a deep, deep recession. Just based on 200,000 in federal firings and pullback of contracts, the March unemployment report, to be released April 4th, seems certain to show bigger job losses than any month ever, outside of a few in 2008 and 2009 and 2020. High-profile Democratic lawmakers are echoing the concerns.
I don't mean to be gloom and doom, but when you have somebody that is firing people from the 15th largest employer in the world, which is the federal government, and then when you are saying, let's kick out these amazing people that have actually contributed to our country in the form of building our homes, as you're complaining about the cost of homes. When you're talking about people that are going and working the farms, as you're complaining about the cost of food, as you're getting rid of people that are working on bird flu, and you're like, oopsie, didn't realize that's what you were doing. We are living with this incompetent administration that is literally driving us to a recession at warp speed. And all I can say is hold on to your money and make sure that you have a way to make money even if you lose your job, because there are people that believe that, oh, I don't work for the federal government, so I'm fine. But that's not the case.
Polling shows most Americans understand the connection between mass layoffs and economic turmoil, as well as the connection between government incompetence and public instability. And making everything even more simple, instead of costs dropping under Trump, prices are rising. And public anger is now showing up in national polls.
The CNN poll looks a lot like the other polls that were out. Let's not make a mistake. The last day and change has been the worst day of polling for Donald Trump during his entire second term in office. What am I talking about here? Take a look at Trump's net approval rating. CNN, you see it on this side of the screen, -5. Gallup, -6. Ipsos, -7. Quinnipiac, -4. Negative, 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 underwater, 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 underwater. These four polls, all of them tell a consistent story, and that is Trump is on the negative side of the ledger. His net approval is negative. He is underwater.
The Trump polling drop recently got a high-profile report on MSNBC. Rachel Maddow noted that Trump's initial approval rating after his inauguration was in minus territory and now has fallen even further.
Gallup just did its follow-up poll, now 1 month into Trump being back in office, and his numbers have gotten worse. He's not -1 anymore. Now he's -6, which makes him at this point in his term, not only the most disliked and unpopular president in 70-plus years of Gallup polling, Gallup says it actually puts him 15 points below the average polling for presidents. At this point in a presidential term, 1 month in, the average is 15 points higher than where Trump is right now. Nobody has ever started off a presidential term this poorly.
Instead of speaking clearly to the American people and trying to explain his policies and economic strategy, President Trump is bashing the media. The day after Maddow's segment, Trump delivered this.
They're really screwed up. I watch this MSNBC, which is a threat to democracy, actually. They're stone cold mean, but they're stuttering. They're all screwed up. They're all mentally screwed up. They don't know what. Their ratings have gone down the tubes. I don't even talk about CNN. CNN's sort of like, I don't know, they're pathetic, actually. But MSNBC was mean. Their ratings are absolutely down. There's Rachel Maddow. What does she have? She's got nothing. Nothing. She took a sabbatical where she worked 1 day a week. They paid her a lot of money. She gets no ratings. I should go against her in the ratings because I'll tell you, she gets no ratings. All she does is to talk about Trump, 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 Trump. All different subjects, Trump this, Trump that. But these people are really, they lie.
This is coming from Donald Trump. Many psychologists say this is another example of Donald Trump projecting. The term refers to when people with a mental health disorder displace their own unacceptable attributes onto others. Anyway, as Donald Trump accuses other people of lying, the fact is that Rachel Maddow was simply reporting the truth. Donald Trump's public approval ratings are falling fast. And on top of the economic uncertainties and anxieties that are impacting public surveys, even more personal horror stories are filling the airwaves and social media feeds. The Trump administration has already cut a Biden-era law to keep down the prices of drugs. In turn, the prices for some medications have already started rising, prompting public testimonials like this.
For the past 4 years, my EpiPens, which are life-saving medical devices, have been free. Even under Obama's administration, they were about like $30 because they regulated that price. They made it affordable and accessible for most Americans. Well, my mom had to go get her new ones today. You want to know how much they cost now under Trump's administration? $600. The pharmacist said, well, it's the Trump administration. That's why it's so expensive. That's why so many medications are about to be so much more expensive, because he literally revoked a bill that lowered the cost of prescription drugs. At this point, I'm just at a loss for words.
Public health anxieties related to drug prices are also filling up viewer call-in segments on C-SPAN.
I'm a diabetic and I'm on Medicare. And when Joe Biden was in there, my insulin was $6 for a 28-day supply. I just went to CVS to get my new supply. It went back up to $80, they said, because the American Recovery Act was canceled. So it went from $6 to $80.
Experts say the rise in medication prices and the drop in government services will hurt red states the most. These are the states where there's a higher percentage of Americans who are most dependent on various types of government assistance. Those red Republican states also tend to get back more in federal spending than they contribute in federal tax dollars.
Some of these people fail to realize, down in Alabama, who's broke, down in Louisiana, who's broke. I can go through pretty much the entire South and tell you that they're broke, and they rely on a lot of welfare from the government. To be perfectly honest, it is tax dollars from these big blue states like New York. Yeah, they send a lot of money into taxes, and then broke states end up benefiting from it, and now they're about to find out. So we're in the find out phase.
As in that term, around and find out. The election of Trump, with the chaotic and extreme actions he has taken so far, are already sparking consequences. Markets are tumbling, prices are rising, and a recession is coming. Everything in America seems to be getting worse, not better. And now, Americans who were initially willing to give Donald Trump a chance are losing patience and are lashing out. The response from anti-Trump voters has not exactly been sympathetic. Instead, the reaction has been along the lines of, We told you so, and that MAGA folks who are suffering are getting what they deserve. Unfortunately, America's crash and the calamity of Trump is going to hurt all of us. By the way, a recent poll found that even Republicans are now turning against Elon Musk.
There are places where the government touches people. USAID really isn't one of them. But like Social Security, Medicare, VA reimbursements. I mean, there are places where, like that game Operation, to stick with the medical metaphor, like there could be one spot where Musk touches and the nose lights up and people are like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Miss G, who wrote, Canadian here just can't believe that half your country catapulted you into this unbelievable hell. Very sad. Indeed. I look forward to reading your comments about President Trump already screwing the U.S. economy, triggering public anger and panic. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.